something you've done your whole life, you just never knew what it was called. Okay, we're going to call it a different name right now. Inequalities look like this. Greater than, less than. Okay, heard of those things before?
Let's go.
All right, so what I need you to do is I need you to write some of this stuff down. There's two signs that are actually new to you, and those are down here. So start writing, and then I'm going to move it up. Please write everything behind the sign. I know you know this is greater than, but there's also another word for, and it's more than. You have to know those words too, because when we start writing them, you're going to be lost. You have to write every single word behind each sign. Can I move it up?
Yeah.
There's this? Yeah. Okay.
And I would say it always costs me no less than $20 on Walmart. Right? That means it's going to cost me $21, $22, $23.
Try and find out the price.
Not right now. So there's going to be three parts to today. We're going to be solving inequalities, we're going to be graphing inequalities, and writing. We didn't get to the writing in the class, that's okay. We're going to for sure do solving and graphing. Okay. Now let's talk about, anybody know this yet? Okay, let's talk about these two, because these are new to you. You know greater than or less than, those are the ones you probably dealt with a lot when you were younger. And if you were like me, you never know which one is which, you just use the big side, which is the bigger number, right?
Yes.
That would be enough. But today, you're going to have to know what they mean, so that's why I have to write them down. Go ahead, quick. That's all it was. Except for that. All right, greater than or less than or equal to. Okay, so there's two things that are happening here. You can be greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to. So if I say this, 7 is greater than or equal to 7, is this a true statement?
Yes.
Yes. Why is this true?
Because they're equal.
Because the or equal to part makes it true, right? Is this true? 8 is greater than or equal to 7.
Yes.
Yes. What makes that true?
8 is greater than.
It's greater than, right? Okay, and the same thing happens with less than. If I would say 6 is less than or equal to 6, is this a true statement?
No.
Yes. What makes this true? The or equal to part makes it true.
They're always going to be a line then.
Yep. But you can have this today too. You can have that. So you guys watch what your sign is. Is this true? 5 is less than or equal to 6? Yes, because the less than part makes it true. Is this true?
8 is less than or equal to 6? It is false, because it's neither of those things, right? Okay. Now, what are we doing today? What does this mean? So let's say that I say this, x is less than or equal to 5. X, I don't know what x is, but what could x be? If x is less than or equal to 5, what are some things x could be? A number less than 5. So 5, 4, right? 2, 1. What if I just say x is less than 5? What are some things x could be then?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Can it be
No,
5?
it'd be 6, 7.
No. If x,
Oh, wait, no.
Sure, it can be negative. If I say x is less than 5, it could be 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So what's the difference between these two? This one can include a 5. Can this one?
No.
No, the bottom one can't include 5.
Well, negative 5.
It could be negative 5, but I mean like this 5 right here. So, and it can be the same thing if I go like this. If I say x is greater than or equal to 7, what are some things x could be? It could be 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, right? But if I say x is just greater than 7, what are some things? It can be just 8, 9, 10, 11. You see, so one is going to include it and one's not. Do you see what I mean? Because that or equal sign makes it that way. Later.
So our problem's gonna be what can get the most?
So our problems today, all of our answers are going to be in inequality format like this. Every single one.
To answer like how much we can get?
Okay, and that's the graphing part of it. So we're just going to look at solving first, and then I'll show you how we can show what like that x could all be. Yep.
So whatever has the line under it, you can have that number that's
Yeah.
on
Yes, you can because it's the or equal to part. So all of our answers today are going to be written in this format. They have to be written in this format. Let me show you why. The last how many sections, you guys had answers that look like that. X equals 9, right? Like those are all what your answers somewhat look like. In equations, you can have one answer. But let's say this was my answer. X is greater than 9. How many answers? How many things could X be? Oh, it could be so many things, right? Anything greater than 9 is what X can be. So that's the difference between inequalities and equations. Equations can only have one answer, or inequalities can have a ton of answers. And so I have to write it like this because this is telling me that x can be greater than 9. Well, x can be 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, and just all the way up. So that's the difference between the equation and equality. Inequalities, a lot of answers, equations, one. So we have to write it like that. Okay? So first thing we're going to do is we're going to solve. So in your notebook, this is going to be part 1. We're going to solve inequalities. Okay, so this is part 1. Part 1. Solve. So every single one of your problems today, you're going to have an inequality sign because they're solving inequalities. That's what it's called. There's no equal signs, no nothing. So x plus 3 is greater than 10. All right, so how do you solve this? You solve it exactly like we were solving our equations. So think of the first day that we solved equations, we talked about balance, right? Okay, same thing. What am I going to do first to solve this problem? Minus 3, and I'm going to do it from both sides, just like I do in equations. So like when we talked about an equal sign, it's kind of like my balance, my balance, you know, I went like this. Well, inequality is the same way. So I'm minus 3 from both sides of the inequality sign. Yes. So then this is how your answer has to look. X is greater than 7. That's how your answer has to look. You can't just write 7 because that only gives me 7 as an answer. But really, what could x be?
X is 7.
No, x is greater than 7. It could be 8, it could be 9, it could be 10, it could be 11. So let's pick one. Let's pick 8. Let's pick 8. Let's pick 8. Let's put it in. 8 plus 3 greater than 10. Well, this is 11. Is 11 greater than 10?
Yeah.
Yep, so it makes sense. So that's what they're saying. Anything that I can make x, I can put in there, and it's going to make this true. It's going to make it true. Okay?
Oh.
So, that's pretty easy. Try another one. Let's try another one.
Go the wrong way.
I will regret what I just said.
What do you mean go the wrong way?
What if we think it's, like for this instance, greater than, what if we think it's less than?
Well, then that's your problem.
Then that's just,
Okay. Okay, do this one in your notebook. It's -6 and it's greater than or equal to n minus 5. -6 is greater than or equal to n minus 5. Notice I just switched things around. You still have to work with the variable side first. Work with the variable side first. And what you're going to do to get rid of that -5. Variable side first. Okay. What are you going to do first? What's the first step?
Plus 6.
No. If I plus 6, I take something off my balance and I can't get back.
No,
We're
plus
plus
6 and
five.
then plus. No.
No. If I add 6, this side goes away, and my balance is like, whoop!
Yeah, then you add 6 to the other side.
No, I can't do that. I have to work. I have to work with what's in my variable. So what's in the 5 is the variable, that -5, right? Because that's what I need by itself. If I'm going to add 6 to both sides, my variable's still with something. So I have to get that variable alone, and I have to get rid of that -5 then, right? So add 5 to both sides. Now my variable's by itself. So I have -1. This is probably what your answer looks like. -1 is greater than or equal to n. So if -1 is greater than n, or equal to it, what can n be? One person. Don't all yell me something at once. If -1 is greater than or equal to n,
Anything will,
any,
-1 or less.
okay, what's less than -1?
-2.
There you go. Because negatives will get people screwed up. Some people like to have their variable first. I'm one of those people. I like to have my variable first. You can do that by doing this. If you got this as an answer, this is correct. This is also correct. I'm going to switch these two things. But if I switch those two things, what do I have to do with this then? I have to flip it. Okay, now it says n is less than or equal to -1, which gives me still the same solution set. And the solution set are always possible answers. It's like everything you've been saying is called a solution set. So it still gives me -1, -2, -3, -4. So if you would rather have yours in this way, you can flip it. That's fine. You just have to remember to flip every single thing in there.
it's kind of like a mirror.
Yeah. All right, try this one. Try this one. Let's do D plus 7 is less than or equal to 15. Solve it. Write it in inequality format. And then I want you to think of some things that D could be. Solve it. Write it in inequality format and think of some things D could be. Make sure you have some good examples in your notebook. Underneath there, write at least 3 numbers that D could be. Think of 3 numbers, write at least 3 numbers that D could be. Answer? Hold on a sec. All right, you good? Anybody need another few seconds yet? Isabella, you good? Bailey? Okay. All right, Landon, tell me what the inequality says. Your answer.
Oh, the answer was,
Sure.
I got it. 8.
No, that's not the answer.
Oh, wait, no. So it would be D is greater than 8.
Equal to 8.
Oh,
Gotta remember that. You gotta have the same sign. So tell me, Matthew, some things D could be.
1 billion, 2 billion, 3 billion.
Does it include 8? Could 8 be included?
Yes.
8 could be included. What tells me that? That equal sign, right? Or Mason, question?
No.
Okay. Any questions so far? So could you solve these?
Yeah.
It's just adding or subtracting, simple things. Let's go to part 2 then. Part 2 is graphing. So on your notebook, I want you to write part 2. Nope,
I agree.
you're gonna need some room to do this. You might have to start a new page. You might have to have a new page. Okay, so this is part 2. This is called graphing inequalities or graphing the solution. Believe it or not, it's not on a coordinate plane, it's on a simple number line, it makes it very easy. You've been doing most of the work anyway. All right, so when to graph inequalities, you have to know 2 things. A closed dot goes with these 2 signs, and you're gonna say, well, I don't get it, but you will. You have to have open and closed dots in your graph, so you have to know what they mean. So a closed dot goes with greater than or less than signs, and an open dot, which I have down here, go with the greater than and less than sign. The reason why it's closed is because it's going to include that number. The reason why it's open is because it's not going to include that. Okay, so closed are and equals, and open is just the regular greater than. Okay, questions so far? Got it in your notebook because you have to have this.
No, I'm storing.
Okay. Okay. What's that? He's doing something else. He had to do something in his table now.
So,
Okay, you have to know this. Closed circle was with these 2 numbers, these 2 signs. Open circle was with these 2 signs. And you have to use open and closed circles when you graph your answers. Okay? All right, so how does this work? How does it work? First of all, when you're given an inequality, you have to solve it. You have to solve it. So if I have this up here, the first thing I'm going to do is solve. So let's solve it. It says h plus 4 is greater than 4. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And I get an answer. I get h is greater than 0. Okay? So the first thing I have to do is I have to solve it to get an answer. Now, how do I graph it? Well, I'm going to create a number line. Okay, there's my line. So make a line. So this is the second part you're going to graph. Create a number line, or just a line. And on this number line has to be the number in the answer. So if I have a 0 in my answer, 0 has to be on my number line. 0, and I'm just going to make a snapshot of a number line. I'm not going to go very far. I'm only going to put about 5 or 6 numbers on it. It doesn't have to be a huge long thing, just basically a snapshot of it. But that number has to be on it. I mean, you can go forever if you want. 3, 4. I tend to put my number on there in the middle, usually. So I know what's there. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to say to yourself, okay, what kind of signs in there? What kind of sign? I have a greater than, I have a greater than sign. So according to my dots, what kind of dot should it be? Should it be open or closed? No, it should be an open dot. So that open dot, I'm going to put it over the top of this number. Okay, open dot. That means that my solution set or all my problems does not include 0 in the answer. If it was closed, it means it would. Now here's what I say to myself, and you've been doing this already. What can h be? What can h be? If h is greater than 0, what are some things it could be, Owen? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well then, okay, that's all these numbers right here, right? So I'm going to take my dot, and I'm going to make an arrow this way, because every one of these numbers can put in here to make it true. And that's it. That's my graph.
Wow.
That's it. It is pretty easy.
She's got to close it up.
Yeah, you got to remember what kind of dot is, and then you have to remember which way my arrow is going to go.
Wait, it goes close over here.
If it was closed, let's say it was like this, and I would fill it in. That tells me that it's going to include 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the answer. But since it's an open dot, I mean, it's just going to include 1, 2, 3, 4 in the answer. So that tells me if it's going to include that number or not in the solution set.
So even if it's closed out, it's still with the arrow.
Yeah, even if it's closed out, it's still with the arrow. All right, let's do another one. Okay, solve this one and graph it. solve this one and graph it. Solve and graph.
Forward on the circles forward on.
That's how you put, know what to put on any graph. Up top and down.
Oh.
So like this one is gonna be a close-up, because it has less than or equal to in it. Then you just need to snapshot, you don't need to go all the way to the the out, 10 in the middle, and 11, 12, 13, 9, 8, 7. Yeah, I wouldn't make a huge hole like a lot of things, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, that's all you need. Yep. Oh. This is the number that has to go over. Yeah. And make sure you have some numbers on the other side of that too. There we go. If you're not sure, graph it. You don't have to graph it. If you want to wait and see that you did it correctly, wait and see. That's up to you. All right, I only got a few minutes left. I gotta cover a few things yet. Okay, when you did it, you solved, you probably got this. +6 on both sides. Now, a few things I had questions on. Somebody said, well, I'm gonna start at 0 and go all the way to 10. You don't have to do that. Just make it a snapshot. Just pull a few numbers out. That's all you need to have on your graph. That's it. So, where's my dot gonna go? Over the 10. Is it gonna be over and close? It's gonna be close.
And it would go to the left.
And it's gonna go this way. Why this way? Well, if x is less than 10, these are the numbers that are less than 10, guys. That's how it goes, Matthew.
You have to have the arrow.
Yes, if you don't have the arrow, it's never gonna tell me which number it's gonna be. No, you have to have it. If you didn't have it, I would know what numbers could be x. I have to have it. I want you to do one more. Here it is. Let's do 12 is greater than or equal to d plus 6. And I want you, no, I want you to solve, and I want you to graph. Because these are the types of problems people get mixed up on, is when the variables on the opposite side. And I'll show you why. So I want you to have an example of that. Is when the variables on the opposite side. Think about what it says. Question? 1 second. These are tricky. You have to read your answer to yourself. And you have to say, okay. Yes. Some of you are going to have your arrow the wrong way. Some of you are going to have your arrow the incorrect way. My guess is when you solved it, this is what you, oh, that's right. This is what you had, right? Okay, when you graph, you can flip it around. You can do like this. D is less than or equal than 6. You can also flip it if you want. 6, 7, 8, 5, 4. Let's stick with this though.
Oh,
If I have 6 is greater than or equal to D, greater than or equal to D, which way does my arrow have to go?
Oh, what?
To the left.
Right. Oh.
Yes.
oh,
I was looking at the
yeah,
one on the right.
because it's less,
Because
D is less.
this thing, these are the same thing. This is what you had for an answer. Some of you are gonna flip it around. If you don't flip it around, some of you are gonna get confused in the way you put your arrow, because this says D, or 6 is greater than D. If 6 is greater than D, what are some things it should be? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, right? That's why it has to be this way. So you have to read to yourself the answer so you know which way your arrow goes. Don't assume, because you probably won't get it right. You have to think to yourself. Now, like Isabel said, can I flip this around? Sure. D less than or equal to 6. Sometimes it makes more sense for people to have a variable first to know which way to graph. And ladies and gentlemen, that is it for today. Because I just going to. Yep.